right, Mark, tell me about this 200 case production Pinot Noir here that you have under the Saison label and what you've done with this wine.
Yeah, so in 2007, 2008, I had the opportunity to spend some time in Santa Cruz. I was staying at this little hotel in Davenport, which is a tiny town on Highway 1. About right up the hill from it is a producer named Ryan Beauregard, who I got a chance to meet. Fantastic guy.
Yeah, great guy.
And he really kind of opened the doors and mentored me a lot in the region of Santa Cruz and the vineyards. And he has a vineyard called Coast Grain, which is a couple miles off the ocean, and a significant amount of limestone and things that kind of tie in with like the ethos of Burgundy. Just because it has limestone doesn't mean you're going to be able to make Burgundy out of it. But it's a very cool climate vineyard site, and a vineyard site I fell in love with because he had just planted it at that time. For me, I really wanted to make wine from this vineyard because for me it really keeps the characteristics, the really beautiful high tone kind of cherry aromatics, but it has the minerality because of just the cool vineyard site, and also the soil base that's there. We don't produce a lot. We do 1/3 stem co-fermentation. So basically, we have a bin that we keep whole cluster, and we bring it down by foot, and then we destem 2 more bins, and it goes on top of that. So and then the process of maceration and fermentation takes place. Completely natural yeast, everything that's in the air. We don't have to do a lot to the wine, really. It kind of makes itself, just the quality. It's the quality of the farming and the vineyard site that really speaks true here. It does see a little bit of new oak. I use Dami barrels, Burgundian barrels.
Sure.
Go figure. and it stays in barrel for about just under a year, right before we start. That timing kind of fluctuates depending on how the new season's going and when the harvest schedule is going to be, because we have to get the wine out of the winery and in the bottle, and we also prefer to do it before harvest as opposed to waiting. I think it retains freshness that way.
There's so much freshness and vitality in this wine right now. It's 7 years old, on paper at this point, but there is a lot of almost this kind of kinetic, bright, vibrant kind of energy. There's floral tones, and then there's a little bit of the savory kind of like tea notes, and there's a little bit of this kind of like organic earthy matter that's almost like underbrush leafy kind of profiles, but there's still this bright kind of tight cherry fruit, which is so pretty. And
it's a great description.
You can see and feel that these vines were not just given all the sunlight that they needed or everything. They just kind of sat there and kind of slowly did their thing and slowly did their thing.
And you can notice too with the acidity retention on the palate. There's grip to that acidity. It's not a tannic wine, it's an acidic wine. It's a fresh wine, and that's what I really love.
So gorgeous. I mean, I really love that kind of light dill note to it. I love the kind of, how do you say, that kind of clean, kind of mountain herbaceous kind of tones, right? There's this. It's a term that Ryan uses, and I think makes a lot of sense. But it's like mountain fruit, because we're surrounded in redwoods up there, and I mean, this is one of the few areas. This is one of the few sites that are planted with grapes, and the rest of it's protected redwood forest. So the air itself is herbaceous. And it really it continues. There. It just exactly that forest, that the redwoods and all the growth and vegetation there. It transmits into the wine, and you really get a chance to pick it out. I feel it. I see it. You can actually feel that kind of like that motion on the palate. This wine is not sitting there still and flat. It has something. It has a verve.
Yeah, it has life.
Nice work.
And for me, it's like, for how we release wines. I tend to, after bottling, keep wines 4 or 5 years before I release them. And the reason I do that is because I like it to start hitting that edge of secondary. I want to start seeing some depth and complexity in it. Instead of just producing wines and releasing them immediately, and then, our guests take the wines home and then they drink them all within 12 months. they never give the wine a chance to develop that depth, you know, and to really enjoy it. So we do that for the clients and for our guests. We hold it back to give it to them at the right time.
To have this in the wine club with the 7 years of age on it and the brightness and the freshness, don't know if we're ever going to be able to reproduce something like this in such a small production, 200 cases.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because, you know, the majority of the production of this wine all went to your wine club, and then there's no more. The rest of it's just going to be library that we're going to keep for the restaurants and ourselves.
They all love. Yeah,
this is the only place to get it is with this wine club.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
This is really good.